Here's Bozanic. They haven't. They might have won it.
The Pioneers with George Danikian and George Kotzanis on FNR, Football Nation Radio.
G1 and G2 are back. Better late than never. And we've got a special guest. Our guest pioneer this week, born on the 5th of May 1954 in a place called Edinburgh in Scotland. They tell me he played some junior football there, but it took him about 20 years to come down under. And more importantly, when he came down under, he didn't just play for any club. Played for Juventus. And then I think he had a selection of clubs that he wanted to play for. George Cross, Harcoa, Frankston City, Faulkner, and Springvale City. And when his playing days were done, he thought, I know, I can do this coaching caper. We've got a guy called Jed Bannon. Welcome to FNR. And that man alongside you there, the one with the very hirsute hairdo, is George Kotzanis. Georgie, you should welcome your special guest because it's taken you a while to get him in.
Well, welcome to everybody, the listeners, the viewers. Out of practice, George.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's
been a while.
It just sagged as you went to say a few words.
No, that's all right. We welcome Jed, who's part of, as anyone who's been watching or listening to our first 70 shows would know, I've mentioned it a million times, and I don't exaggerate, that the Bannons are the Victorian royal family of football. All right.
And have been.
Have been. All right. Paddy, Vince, and Jed, and Eamon, the younger brother, younger as in...
He's the youngest.
He's the youngest.
Do you love that little endorsement just there? The youngest, yes.
The baby.
Baby.
Who actually guested here for Frankston City and Faulkner over the journey on his way to going to a World Cup for Scotland in 86. So the family have got an amazing history here. And obviously there's a nephew as well who we might talk about later, Paul Telfer.
Yes, that's correct.
Who had an outstanding career in the EPL.
Mate, the thing I'm very excited to hear about is Patrick Joseph Bannon, Dad, yeah, and something else. I'm a Spurs boy. I want to hear about Martin Peters, the World Cup winner, yeah, and Jimmy Mackay, of course, very special people.
Yeah, very good friend, Jim's.
Great to have you on board.
Thank you, George.
Welcome.
George, thank you.
Yeah, we gave you one name to worry about, so you wouldn't get distressed, but.
Thanks for having me.
No, don't be silly. For us, it's a pleasure. And what Georgie said is 100% right.
Everybody
who's walked through the door, everyone who's sat in front of a microphone for the better part of the last 2 years, a show has not gone by. And our young crew here, who never saw those golden days of the Victorian State Leagues and the old NSL, they'll tell you every time there was a program, the Bannons were right in the middle of it, right in the thick of the action. Yeah. What was it like for you?
Oh, fantastic.
Being part of that family.
Being part of the family was great. Brought up in Scotland, Edinburgh. My earliest memories of playing football was for St John Vianney's in the Inspectors' Cup final when it was under 12s. And that was...
serious stuff.
Serious stuff. Funny, we never lost the game all year, and we played the final and we couldn't score a goal, and it went to extra time, and we managed to get a goal. And the mothers and fathers from the opposite side, I can't remember what the team was, I think it was Craig Hall or whatever it was, but we had to present the trophy inside the dressing room because the parents weren't happy about us winning 1-0. And that was the start of a sort of journey in the game.
Did you get an awful lot of support? I'm trying to say it in the right way. We know your father has been a fantastic part of the DNA.
Definitely.
But did Mum play a role? Or did
definitely.
Mum sit back and just do all the washing?
Funny, my mother was brought up in the north of Scotland where the main game up there was a sport called shinty.
Yeah, shinty.
Yeah, which is very similar to hockey, but a lot rougher. And
a lot rougher than hockey.
And of course, having to wash strips for 4 boys. She never called them football strips or soccer strips. She would call them shinty pants and shinty strips. It's just the way, because she was brought up. Her brother played the game as well. Played shinty at a very high level.
And I was going to say.
And he was a very good golfer also because he played a lot of
eye-hand coordination. Huh?
So, Mum was a great supporter.
Was Mum thrilled to bits that you never played a game that that was that had any sticks in it? You just played with a round ball?
Oh no, she was just happy with us playing sport of any description. Golf, tennis, and obviously football. But football was her love, and we used to go on holiday up to where my mum came from in a place called Roybridge, and I'll never forget it. Myself and my other brother Vince, Eamon was just a bit young then, but Paddy was around, and the grass was at the back of the house was like knee high. By the time we left after 2 weeks, it was like a bowling green. If the amount of football we played,
better than sheep or goats in the front paddock, eh?
Yeah. So it was good fun and great memories.
Speaking of memories, but normally we do ask that first memory. I mean, obviously remember that cup final, but
that's under 12s. Where did George wants to take you way back?
I just want to know about the backyard. I want to know about the Bannon's backyard. What was that like? Or was it in the laneway or on the streets?
We had a 3-bedroom council house in Edinburgh.
Okay.
And there was an alley or a laneway just at the side. And we used to play, 3 of us in there or 4, and our neighbour George Buchanan, he'd come and join us, and we'd be doing that, and we'd playing 1-touch football, 2-touch. Paddy actually was the best at heading against the wall. He was just fantastic. He could do it all day.
Is that right?
Without the ball going down. He would just practice. And his other favourite trick was from the street. There was our doorway, and Paddy could come up the street with the ball, and from about 25 metres away, chip it right into the doorway, into the little sort of side bit of the door, and just over the hedge and over the garden, and then it went. So all good practice and all good fun, yeah.
My memories of Paddy, he was a big fella, right? He was a solid fella.
Yeah.
And if needed to be, he could be hard, and he could tackle as well as anyone I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
But he was actually majestic, very similar on the ball to, say, like an Alan Hansen when he actually played. When he wanted to play, he was actually a very good, gifted footballer.
Yeah, he was, Paddy. He was very skillful.
Yeah.
And his old left peg, he used to tell everyone, this left foot took me around the world. And it was quite true. But he always got...
So he only used the right to stand on, is that right?
Basically, Paddy, yeah. And when we did play together, Vince and I were doing the right, and Paddy used to always come out with the left. So the arguments used to happen because he wouldn't bring it out Vince's side or my side. He would pass it over to Harry Howard, who was on the left-hand side. So, yeah, it was all good fun.
Very good. So, obviously, there would also have been some serious tackling in a lot of those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
it's almost
you
shinty-like,
learned young, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
No backward steps.
Playing junior football, it wasn't really junior. It was similar to your VFL here. It was sort of
all ages,
semi-professional,
yeah.
And a lot of good pros came out of there, and it was a tough league, a very tough league. And if you couldn't tackle and hold your own, you didn't make it. Basically,
where did you learn to read the game? Was that something that was in your DNA, or was it all these street games, all this competition you played against from different age groups?
We brought up in the house in the state where we were brought up. There was a field at the end of the road, and you couldn't get a game. There'd be queues, people wanted to play, and you played all day. And you just had to learn how to find a man or keep possession.
Otherwise, you didn't play too long on the pitch.
That's true. Yeah, it was.
It's a great level, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like a coaching clinic, basically. The amount of games that were going on, and it's all good fun. Yeah,
and it was. That's the thing we keep trying to tell our kids today: have fun.
That's right. Yeah. Well, there's no computers and all that sort of stuff, and my mum used to just say, right, out you go, boys, and we were out in the street, even in the summer nights till 10 o'clock. It would get dark, and we'd be out there playing sport. Yeah, great.
Under the lights, they reckon football's more exciting under lights, but not quite street lights.
But we used to go to this. There was a private school not far from us, and they had hockey goals which had nets. And of course, we never had nets when we played, and we used to sneak up there and under the lights, the street lights, we'd have games on this hockey pitch, and it was just sensational.
Sensational, yeah. Even the wire fencing on a hockey net is better than no net at all in the soccer pitch.
Yeah, things like that. You take things for granted these days, but we had great fun.
When did it get serious for you?
Well, I sort of gave the game away, and Paddy at one stage did, and so did Vince. And also
17, 18, 19, you gave it away?
15, 16-year-old. sort of drifting away a wee bit. And my dad was a big influence because he was a driver on the railway and he knew a lot of people, and a lot of people were running different football clubs. And there was a club called the Dyna Hibs, and my father was a driver on the railway, and one of his friends ran this club called the Dyna Hibs under 16s, and got me involved, got Vince, my other brother, involved earlier. So even with Paddy, I think was around about 16, 17, was getting a bit disillusioned with the game, and my dad got him involved with the team, an amateur side, and somebody seen him and picked him up, and he went junior as well, sort of thing. So, yeah, my dad was a big influence.
So even then, even with your love of the game, there were moments where there was disillusionment because you didn't see a pathway or an opportunity to progress.
Yeah, well, I was more than delighted when I got signed from juvenile to junior, which was you were getting paid. It was a semi-professional role, and to me that was basically you've made it. It's great,
Hello.
you know, you're actually getting paid for something that you love doing. You know,
Did Mum or Dad claim any of the money?
No, my dad says when you go to sign, make sure you ask for £5. And I played this game, this trial, and they wanted to sign me for Broxburn, and I would have played for nothing. But they said, "What do you want?" And I said, £5.
Can't tell Dad that.
And I was waiting to the guy saying, "No, we're not going to give you that £5." But he said, "Oh, if your dad says that, then okay, we'll give you £5." So that was the start of it.
And how old were you then?
I was 18 then.
18.
Yeah. But I have a sister as well. You know, George.
A sister.
Yeah.
And,
yes, there is a sister.
And the sister also play football?
She didn't play, but she had a son that played at a good level. Paul Telfer, he played a good level.
Yes, we know the name.
Yeah. So he played a number of English Premier League games, so he had a good career.
Very good.
Yeah, so my sister was actually quite supportive as well.
So how did the Bannons come to Australia?
Funny enough, John Kennedy...
I mean, the trains don't come down.
No.
I'm thinking, when did Dad stop driving?
John Kennedy, I don't know if you remember John Kennedy. Yeah, well, the
late great John Kennedy, goalkeeper of Hallis and Fitzroy and
lovely
Box
guy.
Hill.
Yeah. But John actually came back to Scotland on holiday in 1972, 73, and he went to his old club, which was called Arniston Rangers, and Vince, my brother, and Ian Gibson were playing in that team. And after the game in the clubhouse, we were talking, and John mentioned, "Any of you guys fancy coming to Australia?" And
You went, "Where's Australia?"
And Vince said, Vince wanted to go to Canada, actually.
Oh.
And Vince said, "Well, I'd be interested." And Gibby, or as the Gooch used to call him, Zorba, Gibby decided to go along with Vince, and they arrived, and Vince loved it. And he got in touch with Paddy, and Paddy came over with his wife, Maureen, and kids, and he loved it, and he brought various players like George Gillan and Sam Cooke.
Well, it's funny because we had John Dimpses in here a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and John obviously has his own spin on that particular story, and he calls it Noah's Ark. So he sent John Kennedy to Scotland with some money and come back with Vince and Gibbo the first year, and then Paddy and George Gillan.
That's
so it was
right.
coming over 2 by 2. So we
and Donzo came over as well, the striker, and he had a good year as well. And at that time I was in South Africa actually at that time, and or not long after that.
Because of football?
No, actually, my job was a radio and TV technician, but I went to South Africa and just knocked on a club door, and actually the guy I was working with played with his fife, so I got fixed up with the team over there.
Okay.
And then I was a year there, and then came over here.
What was that like? What was like? What we're talking in the 70s, South Africa, apartheid. Was it tough, or was it comfortable?
I got there in the January of '76, and the riots actually were in the June. But everybody thinks the riots were in Johannesburg itself. It was in a place called Soweto, which is like from Melbourne to Geelong.
Soweto.
So we didn't really see a lot of the trouble, but you could see a lot of the situations, as in, you got the post office. There was a white area and there was a black area, and there was buses were white and black, and even at the racetrack there was an area where whites only. It was quite.
What about your football?
Yeah, the standard was pretty good. It was probably
was it segregated?
Yes. Yeah.
So you had white football and black football.
Yeah. The blacks played in the Sowetos, and they had teams, and they had some really good players. I can't remember the name. A special player that did go over to play for some team in Belgium and done really well, but came back.
Wow.
But now, of course, it's all
Yeah.
colours.
Well, they've just won the World Cup in rugby, and with the first black captain.
Is that right?
Yeah. So a huge history still being written, but so many people in those early days got a wind that South Africa might not be quite as promised and chose to come down under. You came in January of 77, was it?
77, yes. Yeah, to Juventus.
Yeah.
Was
television going colour then?
Sorry?
Was television in colour then? The answer is yes.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
75 we turned colour.
Yeah.
So you would have been right in your element.
Yeah.
My-
Actually, I went to South Africa and they just got colour television as well.
So you already knew. The question I've got is, why did you go to Juventus and not Fitzroy as it was at the time and follow your brothers?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know what the situation was at the time. Was it Paul Mirabella was the president of Juventus at the time?
Possibly.
Yeah, Mirabella. And he spoke to Paddy. I don't know where he met Paddy, or it was Bobby McLaughlin, one or the other. And he mentioned I was in South Africa and wanted to come out to Australia. And, got me fixed up with Juventus.
Okay, so there wasn't any chance, there wasn't sliding doors moment where you might have gone over.
Well, I started when I got over there because it was Juventus hadn't started training. I was training with Paddy at Heidelberg, and Jim Adams was there, and he sort of hinted. He goes, "What about Jed?" And Paddy says, "Oh no, he's all signed, fixed up with Juventus." So I couldn't really say no. So yeah, that was.
So what was it like in Juventus those days?
I was
You
great.
just arrived in Australia.
Oh, it was fantastic. The most friendliest people.
Did you get a handle on all the accents?
Actually, it was getting my name, getting around some of the names like Fausto Tarquino and Bruno Savadusi and Claude Lucchese, and I just remembered all these guys and really good players as well.
Super
Yeah,
players.
so and made me more than welcome.
How fantastic!
Just loved it.
How'd the fans accept this Bannon coming down under?
Yeah, very, very much so. Yeah, I was only here, I think it was a month, and Bobby McLaughlin, who was the coach, he said, "Any other players over there?" I said, "Well, there is actually," and I got brought out Mickey Watkins, who came over and had a couple of exceptional seasons with Juventus as well. So yeah.
So you were scout as well as player.
Yeah, funny enough.
Wow.
Yeah. So
how did you find the competition?
I found the competition fairly similar to the competition in South Africa at the time. It was pretty tough as well. Yeah, I thought the state league standard was quite good.
What did you make of our refereeing?
Yeah,
because we've had some referees on the Pioneers, and they refereed a little bit differently, they tell us.
Chris Banbridge, to me, was an excellent referee. Chris could talk to you through the game. He'd run past you, and if you had done a certain tackle, he'd mention it and he'd say, "Look, once more, Jed, you're going in the book." So he was good, and he let the game flow, which was really good. But there was a funny story, actually. Chris was doing one game for us at Olympic Park, and he was stopping the ball, and stopping the game all the time, and free kicks here. And after the game, he would come into the bar and we'd have a drink. And I said to Chris, "You didn't have your usual game today." And he goes, "You know why, Jed?" I goes, "Why?" He said, "There was an inspector in the stand." He said, "So I had to go by the book, exactly to the book." Which
Well, he's now the assessor of many of the referees.
Oh, Chris, yeah.
And I'm sure that he's a little bit more tolerant of those who allow the game to play.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I would think so.
And
because
it's good for
we've
the
got
supporters as well.
we've got an international referee now from Iran, someone who's quite a reputation, and everyone's loving the way that he is allowing the advantage where he can, and if he needs to pull that up, he does.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
There is one referee story I was telling George earlier. We were playing in the Docket Cup final against Croatia, and we're winning 1-0. This is with Frankston City
Where were you playing?
at Olympic Park.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was so close to the end of the game that they actually put the ribbons of Frankston City on the cup. That's how close we were to winning it. And I ran past Stuart Mellings, who was the referee. And I hope if Stuart's listening, he probably won't remember. But anyway, I ran past Stuart and I said, "How long to go, Stuart?" He looked at me and he goes, "Game's over, Jed." Just then, Tony Young, our fullback, slipped. Tommy Cummins collected the ball, crossed it over. Croatia equalised. Beat us 2-1 in extra time. So, anyway.
It's never over.
Never
never
over
over.
until it's over.
No, it's never over till it's over, that's for sure.
Which takes us on to Frankston City. You had a season at Juventus and then went on to Frankston City.
That's great.
Which doesn't exist anymore as a club, is it?
Well, it is. It's called the Strikers now.
Strikers,
and they've still got the
right.
same.
Yeah.
But
They've had a period where they
they went
out for a while and
bad management.
It's called a sabbatical.
okay.
Yeah.
Call it what it was.
They do that even in Scotland.
Yeah.
They know what a sabbatical is.
But why did you make that move?
Well, at the time, I was with Juventus, and I was over visiting a friend of mine up in Queensland, a guy called John Brown, who was coaching up there, and Vince phoned me up and said, do you fancy going to Frankston City? He's going to Frankston City. And I said, I wanted to play with Vince, and I said, yeah, why not? So, I went and
It's a
joined
package deal.
Yeah, went and joined Vince at Frankston City, which was
That
enjoyable.
would have been a special moment playing with your brothers. Yeah.
Well, that was the first time I'd played with.
The first time you played.
Yeah, we'd played together.
That would have
on
been
the
a
same team.
special.
Oh, it was too. Yeah, very enjoyable.
Was there a little bit of special Bannon radar working?
Oh yeah,
during that
Vince
season?
was right back. I was right midfield, so he'd overlap, and I'd fill in for him, and vice versa. Yeah, it was good fun.
Can I
Fantastic.
ask a question? I watched Vince
He's a winger.
from
He can ask
from
a
very
question.
young age, right?
Yeah,
And Paddy for that matter. And I've got this recollection of, I don't know whether I've seen this footage or whether it's a photo, but anyway, I've just got this recollection of Vince tackling some bloke. I can't remember where it was, maybe Middle Park, and he's hit him that hard that the guy went, and fairly, because it was hard, but he was fair, and there wasn't anything untoward, but he's hit him that hard that the poor boy ended up into next week. And you would have seen this up close.
yeah.
That's the shinty.
That did
That's
happen.
the shinty coming through.
No, that did happen actually. It was against Green Gully, and it was at Frankston, and I can remember that, but I can't remember what the player was. But it was a fair tackle, and he actually ended up on the barrier at the side, almost going over it.
Wow.
Vince went in so strong.
Had
but
you
it was
ever
a fair-
seen a harder tackler than Vince? Or was there ever?
That's why he wanted to play with him.
Vince was a good backup man to have if you were playing. I like that. Yeah, Vince a very good tackler. Yeah.
Okay. And you guys did very well down there, especially in '79. I think you finished
Cleaned
second to Melbourne,
I don't really
Croatia.
mention Melbourne, Croatia beat us in goal difference, and
Yeah.
then beat us in the Dockett Cup, and but we had a good side, very good side actually. How we lost the league, we lost Noel Minton at the time, who was a good striker, and I think that cost us. To be honest, at the end of
We're talking to Jed Bannon, our pioneer, our first one for the brand new season. And G2 tells me that you had a great joy playing with some marvellous players. Martin Peters, someone I remember from the 1966 World Cup side. Later, of course, he played with Tottenham Hotspur. A super player, and again, elegant.
Yeah.
But tough when he needed to be.
Oh yeah, lovely man as well.
Where did you come across him?
Well, he was signed up with my brother at the same time to come out to Frankston City. And
Wow.
one of the committee at Frankston City, a guy called Del Lyons, he was involved with a pub in West Ham in London, and these players used to go in there. So
Of course,
he
these
set
old
up,
hammers.
he set up the deal with Martin Peters, and of course, when my brother signed with Chelsea, I said to him, make sure you get a deal to come out to Australia on your contract, which he did. So he was allowed to come out, and he came out at the same time, just after Martin Peters. But they played together for a couple of games.
So Eamon, your younger brother,
Yeah.
came out. So that's where a lot of the myth about the four Bannons playing together sort of
Started to breed.
to breed. There was
Yeah.
three because the three of yous played, because Eamon came out for 4 games in '79 and there was a guest.
Yep.
And you had Martin Peters
Yep.
in that team. So 3 Bannons, a World Cup winner, a future World Cup player.
Yeah, and we did actually, 4 of us did play together in one game, and it was a game organised, I think, by Jimmy Rooney. It was like a all sort of charities type setup, and we played Frankston City. The game was played, and I've actually got a photograph of the 4 of us before the game, and we were wearing the Frankston City shirts. So
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So it did happen, but it was an unofficial game.
that's right,
A charity game.
A charity.
What was Martin Peters like?
Lovely man,
Yeah.
and an excellent coach as well. He'd done a bit of coaching while he was there, and it was quite funny. One session he was putting on at training, and he said, "Right, Jed, when you get the ball in midfield, I want you to hit this space here." And I'm thinking, okay, I'll hit the space, so you're going to be there. He says, don't worry about me, just hit the space. So we're playing, I think it was Preston or whatever it was the next week. And I've got the ball in midfield, and I says, oh, I'm going to do it. And I knocks into the space. Because he was getting picked up so tight, he needed that. He needed to know it was going to go there before someone else did.
Gotcha.
So and he was there. He made it there. He got his time to turn, cross it over, or had a shot or whatever else.
Well, today there's so much of that strategy, and it's about running into spots predetermined through many hours of practice. He was thinking like that ahead of the game.
Well, he played at top level, and
of course he did.
It's tough to play like that at top level as well. But a lovely guy, a real gentleman, yeah.
And a hammer in those early days.
Yeah.
And one of the great
I think his nickname was the Ghost, wasn't it?
The Ghost, that's right.
Yeah.
I loved him because, as you said, I remember many games when he was at White Hart Lane, and he would drift into those moments, and no one saw them.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah?
I think he scored one or maybe 2 goals. Was it George when he was here? I think he scored 1 goal against Preston.
Is that right?
Yeah. And he did that. He drifted into the box, and there he was, yeah.
Well, when they arrive late, there's nothing much you can do as a defender, correct?
That's true.
Frank Lampard made a whole career about that, arriving late, really late in the box. And it's almost uncanny. The later you can make it, and of course, being in the right place, it's impossible. The goalkeeper doesn't see you either.
No, that's right. It's a gift.
I would have said Jimmy Campbell, but you go with your Frank Lampard.
Okay, Patrick Joseph Bannon.
My father.
Yes, your dad.
Yeah.
What did Dad demand of the boys and his daughter?
Dad was just a guy that just loved sport as well. I mean, I remember on holiday, as I say, we'd be in the back of this house, the field at the back, and Dad would go on holiday, and he'd be working the whole holiday, but then he'd put down the paintbrush or whatever he was doing, and he'd come and join in, and you couldn't get the ball off him.
Did he play in his time?
He did in his early days. Yeah. And him and Paddy just would take the rest of us on, and we couldn't get the ball off them, and Dad used to just, love it. He couldn't play for laughing. So, yeah, it was good fun, and he was a great influence on us all, to be honest.
What did he make of your desire to go to Australia?
Well, not happy. Mum wasn't happy either to start with, but they came out on a number of occasions. We sorted that out. You couldn't convince them to stay? Well, my sister was in Scotland, and the grandchildren were there as well. But that's the tiebreaker. Yeah, and it is grandkids. It's not so bad these days because communications nowadays. In those days, it was very FaceTime, FaceTime, and everything else. Unbelievable, yeah. So no, my dad was. He loved the game and loved sport in general, and encouraged us to play it. 77. It was pages. Did you have pages? They call you on a pager? Yeah, pagers, yes. Pagers, yes. No mobile phones in 1977. No. Telegrams, you still had telegrams, correct? Telegrams, yeah. Coloured television. It was a brand new world out there.
And he's a TV technician. So
and a TV technician to boot.
You didn't work for Les Shorrock, did you?
No, I didn't work for Les. Les
spent a bit of time fixing TVs, didn't he?
I remember going to Les's shop when I first came here. Yeah. Actually, round the back. Yeah, Les was a character, of course. Take us back to those games, those Doherty Cup games against Croatia. How tough were they? Oh, Croatia. And combative, really tough? Yeah, we had some great games against Croatia. One particular game we won, I think it was 1-0 Olympic Park in a league match, and it was 2 good sides and very competitive. Can you remember some of those Croatian stars that gave you some hell? I remember picking up Tommy Cummins and saying, "Don't commit, Jed. Just stay on your feet. Just stay on your feet. Don't commit." But he had the lowest centre of gravity you're ever going to see. Tommy. Yeah, no, Tommy's a great player, but you couldn't afford to put the tackle in. If you did, you had to make sure it was 100%, or Tommy was by you. Is that right? Yeah, and Ken Murphy as well, of course, a very good player. John Gardner.
That leads me to our amazing stat for the night.
Which is?
Frankston versus Melbourne, Croatia, 1979.
Go on.
There was 3 Bannons.
Yep.
7 guests who have been on the Pioneers.
Wow.
All in the one game. You're never going to get a stat like that again. 7 Pioneer guests in the one match. 1 a referee.
Yeah, that only explains 2 things to me. It means that he has a great memory. and
I
two,
need a life.
and that was the game. That was the game. The only game he saw in those days, and he's taken notes. No.
Thanks.
What were the highlights for you in those early days when you came to Australia?
Oh, well, the first year with Juventus under Bobby McLaughlin, who was coach, we won the Doherty Cup that year. Wow. That was a highlight. And we beat Croatia as well, funny enough. That was another, on penalties.
Now, did you come as a single man or as a married man?
Single man.
Single man.
Yeah.
So when did you meet the other members of the family?
You mean my wife?
Yes, your wife.
I met my wife in 1978. She's from New Zealand.
A New Zealander?
Yeah, New Zealander, unfortunately.
What was she doing in Australia at the time?
She was on holiday. And yeah,
So you were on holiday from Scotland. She was on holiday
from New Zealand.
From New Zealand.
Yeah.
And where did you meet?
I'm just trying to think. Oh, I met through a blind
she's
date,
listening.
actually. It was through a blind date, to be honest.
A blind date?
Yeah, a friend of mine was with her friend, and we arranged a meeting, and that's how I met.
Wow.
Yeah.
So no Tinder for you. It was a blind date.
No Tinder. Blind dates are best, I think.
41 years later.
Well, happy anniversary. What's her name?
Christine.
Christine. Does she still have that?
Well, we're divorced now, actually.
Oh, okay.
And I'm with Felicity, who's my partner now.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, again, happy anniversary. I was just going to say, Felicity is Australian or New Zealander?
Australian.
Australian.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah. So
I've gone from Greek to Australian, so it happens. You just make connections, and they grow on you. It's very good.
You talk about the girls, Fonzie, and I'll talk about the football.
Anything you want to do, you're welcome to, G2.
All right. Now, you moved on to St Kilda Hakoa.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Which is another club that took a dive and unfortunately doesn't exist
St Kilda
anymore.
was Hakoa. They were in a bit of a bother at the time financially, I think. No, we never had a good year there. Just trying to think
What was their home ground?
Middle Park.
Middle Park.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one they shared with South Melbourne.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But at the time, I was actually training with Preston, and I would have been with Preston, but in those days you needed to have a sporting visa. So what happened was Branoff, who was the president of Preston, he said, "Don't worry, we'll sort it out." And I went up to immigration with Mr. Branoff and trying to sort it out, but there was a delay of something like 6 months.
Ouch.
And Preston said, "Okay, we'll still, as long as you train." And I played in all the friendlies, and I thought, okay. And Alcoa came in and said, "Look, we've got a visa spot. Do you want to come to Alcoa?" So I ended up going to Alcoa.
Did you get paid?
Yes, definitely.
Well, that's right.
Yeah,
That's good. Oh, good club. George Cross.
Yeah, George Cross. I loved George Cross. It was great there.
They still hadn't merged at that stage. They were still standalone. They hadn't merged with Sunshine City yet.
Jim Adams was the coach then. And,
was he? Where were they playing though? Were they still sharing the ground with Sunshine at that stage? Or
no,
or
we had our own ground, but it was over by Sunshine.
Yeah, okay. Maybe they were playing out at Albion as well.
Yeah, when I was there, we played over at Sunshine, and Jim Adams was the coach at the time.
Yeah.
Players like Dave Rigby was there at the time as well. We had some good players. I think we finished in the top 4 that year. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Was Billy Wilkinson there at that period?
Billy was there as well, yeah.
What was he like as a player?
Very good player.
Yeah.
Read the game, fantastic. Good skills. Just a born leader. And he had a great career himself in England.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was...
Sadly left us way too young.
He left us too young, yeah. I think he was in his 50s when he left us.
Oh, dear.
Yeah,
that's very young.
Yeah, he was a character, though. The real character.
Nice bloke.
Well, the thing about players of that ilk, they have that impishness, that scallywag within, and it seems to burn extra bright, and maybe that takes something from them.
Yeah,
because we've known some friends who have been like that, and they've left us too early, and they were wonderful, but full of life, full of energy.
Yeah.
Billy had a smile that could just light up a room too, didn't he?
Oh yeah,
is that right?
He had a little cheeky smile, but it was a warm smile. He was just one of those blokes that you wanted
So
to.
he's the one you offered to lead you into the nightclub. He opened the place up, and then you could go around and just have a great evening.
If the nightclub, but nice quiet bar.
There were training sessions in those days, Jed. What were they? 3-4 times a week?
If you were doing well in cups or league, you'd maybe get an extra day, but it's usually 2 nights a week.
Okay, so it was 2 nights.
And sometimes
and a full-time job.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, at that time, Jimmy Adams was my PE teacher.
Right.
That very year, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Tell me about, because we've had different, I've heard different stories about, and some interesting stories about Jimmy and.
So you
things
mean
he
he
used to
wasn't
get
a
up to.
PE teacher?
He was a PE teacher, but he was pretty basic when it came to. He just wanted to play soccer and win. But I've heard different stories from different people at different clubs about because he could be an eccentric.
Very much so. Jimmy was a sort of coach that would train as hard as the players. Basically, he was even in his 50s. He was really fit, and he had a good football career. I believe he was with Aston Villa.
Yeah,
It
It sounds like Wardy from Moreland City.
Yeah, something like that.
But he used to play music before the game, and a few of the players would wonder what's going on, and
And this is in the days of the
Hang on.
jukebox?
No.
Or beatbox?
What music was he playing
oh,
before the
he
game?
played the various tunes to sort of get you going. And
Yeah, but what?
I'm trying to think of at the
It
moment.
was bagpipes, wasn't it?
Oh, it was
There was a lot of
bagpipes.
bagpipes.
There's all those tunes that sort of supposed to rev you up. But it was more of a
Old
laugh
war
than-
songs.
Yeah.
Okay, so
more than a laugh
we're
than
not
anything
talking
else.
about the British tattoo, are we?
No.
Not far off it,
Not
though.
far off it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
But Jim, a lot of players didn't like Jim, but I quite like Jim actually as a guy as well.
Very
But
good.
He was a bit eccentric. I'll give you that, George.
Yeah, he was eccentric,
Yeah.
but he was a lovable character.
When you're a television technician, eccentric is easy. No problem.
Yeah.
You can cope with that. It's just one of those extra cables. It's just, HDMI, no problem.
HDMI.
Well,
Yeah, that's all changed now.
Done. Why did you go back to Juventus?
Well, at the time, was with George Cross, and Tony Bogie actually phoned up Paddy and said, "Look, would you fancy a move to Juventus?" And Paddy said to Tony, "Well, what about Vince and Jed?" He goes, "Yeah, if we can
Package?
get them." Yeah. So Vince was at the time was in talks with Hellas, who wanted to keep him, and John Margaritis was desperate to keep Vince as well. And Vince, when he's seen the opportunity to play with myself and Paddy, says, "No, I'm going to Juventus." So that was it.
Wow.
Done deal. I think John Margaritis was knocking on his door and phoning him up and phoning his wife and trying to get all sorts of to get him back to Hellas. But no, Vince wanted to play with us at Juventus, and yeah.
What was it like playing Middle Park against South Melbourne?
We never actually played against South Melbourne with Juventus.
Is that right?
South were in the national.
South were in the
League.
national
okay.
league then, yeah.
Okay.
But
So you wouldn't have played them in any cup competition?
I think we did play them. No, we played Heidelberg in a cup competition when I was with Frankston. No, I don't think we played against Hellas.
So who was in Heidelberg at the time? I'm just trying to get an
Paddy
idea of the
was there then.
characters.
Paddy was there, Jimmy Rooney, Gary Cole, Jimmy Campbell.
Gee, that's pretty.
Eddie Taylor. They were all playing. It was the first round of, I think, an Ample Cup game or something. I was with Frankston City and they beat us, I think, 1-0. There were a couple of minutes to go, but they were all over us.
Is that right?
Yeah. But very good side they had in those days as well, Heidelberg. Or was it Fitzroy then, or the Heidelberg then?
When you would have played him at just become Heidelberg, I
Yeah,
think they'd taken the
yeah.
name but hadn't moved to
I think
the ground
Jimmy
yet.
Jimmy was the coach then. Jimmy Rooney and Paddy
yeah.
were coaching then. Yeah.
All right, so
That's a pretty hot side.
yeah,
Yeah?
well,
The Gary Coles, the Jimmy Rooney's.
at that
Kenny
period,
Taylor.
it's
Yeah.
when they had 10 internationals or
Yeah.
11,
Yeah.
12 internationals plus your imports. So it was a golden period for
Yeah, it was. too.
Heidelberg at the
Yeah.
time. So every player, right through to the player 13 and 14, was an outstanding player.
Well, we spoke a little earlier to Peter Catholis, who was at Apia,
Oh, yeah.
and he read that Apia side, and it was like star, superstar, star. And he said one of the reasons why we had such a successful year was because of the competition for places.
Oh, yeah.
So you had to play, or else next week you weren't lining up. Was that the same thing for you guys, or not so much?
Not so much. I think with at Juventus, yeah, probably at one stage there when we were three of us playing, we had a very good squad. When John Margaritis took over, we had Graham French was there at the time as well, and Kevin Lloyd, Fabio, he was there as well. So there's a lot of players, fighting for positions.
What was Margaritis like as a coach?
John, very superstitious, I thought.
Superstitious.
Yeah, very superstitious.
Explain.
Well, with certain team talk, he had to have 2 coins behind on his hands while he was giving the team talk,
All right.
which I found quite strange. But anyway,
He changed his socks, underwear, and
I don't think he did if he won a game.
were you superstitious?
I think all sportsmen are slightly superstitious. A funny story with John Margaritis. Vince, my brother, who's Catholic, used to go to Mass on a Sunday. And, of course, when Vince went to Mass and Hellas were playing away and they won, John would approach Vince before the game and say, "Have you been to Mass yet, Vince?" Because he wanted them to be at Mass, because every time Vince went to Mass, they won the match. So, yeah, I think most sportsmen have superstitions.
You'll cling to anything if it's going to get you a win, basically.
Well, that's
Were
right.
you superstitious, G2?
Not about going to church before a game, but there's probably
Socks
favourite
or
socks
shorts
or
and
put
things
on.
like-
You've got to put your boots on a certain time, a certain way.
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff that makes you think you're ready for a game that has no real consequences.
I only had one thing that a ring I used to wear as a goalkeeper.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I always made sure that they saw it early. And then never got trouble.
Didn't you
Never
wear
got
no gloves?
I made wusses gloves for wusses.
Okay.
You need to feel the ball on your hand.
I wouldn't have a clue.
Catch it. You need to catch it, mate, not punch it away.
I was born with 2 feet. I
Of
didn't
course.
need to.
And by the way, did he train in there, warm up while you were outside getting ready for this evening's
No, I never seen
session?
that. Were you, George?
Because he does that.
No.
He spends hours
I
training.
have done it for 70 shows previous to today.
Correct.
But can I just tell you, I'm not stupid. You don't take the P155 out of a Bannon.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Not if you
'Cause
want
he's
to.
done it, he's
not
done
if
it
you
for
don't want to
Kenny
go
Taylor.
home.
He's done it for King Kenny. He's done it for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, did he do it for Jed Bannon?
No, you don't do it for a Bannon because
Right.
you'll end up like
Part
the
of-
poor guy at Green
got it.
Gully did.
Into next week. I got it.
Speaking
Okay.
of which, just at that time when you're at Juventus, the Croatias and the Green Gullies were about to step into the National League, so that next phase of the National League when they had the Southern Conference and whatever.
Yeah.
So you'd been playing against Croatia, and Green Gully had a golden period at the
the
time.
two,
They were winning
yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
right?
They're
With
a great side.
absolutely stars from Stewie to Paul Lewis, Peter Lewis, Willie Vassallo,
Yeah.
David Hogben, guys we've had here. But when you were playing against them, did you know that that was a good side? Because that 83
Yeah.
Green Gully side was
Tactically, Green Gully were very
under Len McKendry.
very well coached. They played at times I thought a boring game of football, the way they played. They very defensive.
Len did that at Heidelberg as well.
Very defensive and, catch on the break sort of type, keep possession. So it wasn't an all-out
But it was effective.
enjoyable game, to be honest.
Effective.
But there are so many teams that
Effective,
do
yeah.
that, Jed.
Well,
there are so
those-
many teams that close up at the back,
Yeah.
and the first opportunity they get a chance to break, they break with speed, and if they're disciplined
Yeah.
and they have that striking weapon, they'll put it in.
Well, Green Gully at the time, we had John Garner at the back sweeping, and he'd bring it out. Peter Boyle was in the midfield as well.
Yeah.
And he sadly passed on, Peter
Yeah.
Boyle.
Good player,
And
very good player.
the name of the game was keep possession and don't give the ball away. But when you had the opportunity, then they would go forward and they'd maybe sneak a goal and they would just retain that possession.
Would they bring it out through the keeper? Or
Yeah,
They
keep
did,
it out
they
to
did.
Gardner. out to
is that
John
right?
Gardner.
Even then,
Yeah.
Yeah, John Gardner was known for, even when he
So-
played and coached,
Yeah.
was
what I'm trying
playing it out
to
from
what
the
I'm
back.
trying to establish is so many new things are old things. They're just
Yeah.
brought back in a slightly different, tweaked fashion, and we
Yeah.
call it a new style of possession football. It's been around for 100 years. They just play it with slightly different tweaks.
Well, the modern game now, almost every player in every position is very skillful.
Yeah.
So
Well,
keep
Johan
possession.
Cruyff gave us an access to a thing called total football,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
he had the numbers were basically throw them out because all of them can do what they need to do when they need to do it.
That's right. Yeah.
Did you coach similarly, or did you?
I never coached at any top level. I coached Ashburton, which were thinking Premier Division.
Did you
4, I
enjoy
think
it?
they were. I did enjoy it actually, but not as enjoyable as playing.
Of course.
I actually was coaching at Sandringham as well with Noel and Danny McCluskey, which I did enjoy. But when you're coaching down at that level, it's enjoyable, but you can't coach the tactics that you'd like to coach. Whereas if you had a Heidelberg or a Hellas to coach or a top side, then you would enjoy it a lot more, put it that way.
Are you saying you needed the horses?
Well, you need the cattle. You need certain players to play the game. So when you're down playing at lower leagues, the thing, the tactic was everybody behind the ball.
Yeah.
When it breaks down and get possession back, and you've got a couple of handy players up front and maybe a midfielder that's
that
fairly
has something
confident.
about them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then you're on a good wicket.
It's a lot more simplistic, isn't it, at the lower level?
But higher level, you can put sessions on, and you can put a free kick on that is going to come off. Basically,
Was Alan Evans at Sandringham when you went through there?
Alan was there, I think, the year before I was there.
Okay. Did you come across him when he was playing here? And
I met Alan as a friend.
yeah, but not on the pitch.
But not as a player, right?
No.
He would have been a handful?
Alan, I believe, was a handful. Well, Paddy played against him, and he could handle himself, Alan. He put himself about, put it that way.
And while we're on that subject, because I've been ringing him for 2 years and leaving messages.
He won't respond.
If anyone can get hold of him and actually talk to him face to face, tell him we really want to get him on the show.
We'd love
Yeah,
it.
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
If for no other reason, so you can give us an insight into Jed Bannon.
Well, he will give us an insight as
Into
to
Paddy?
how to score a hat-trick against Bayern Munich in a European
There
Cup
you go.
quarter-final.
That might get us.
The most
That
expensive
might pique our
teenager
interest.
in British football at the time when he
That's
left
right,
from
yes.
Wolves to
Yeah.
Liverpool. So he's got a lot of stories that we'd love to share. So anyway, get it out there. If anyone's a mate of his, we'd love to talk to him. After Juventus, Faulkner.
Yeah, Faulkner.
How did that come about?
With Juventus, John was coach then. Vince actually at the time got a bad injury, and I was sort of hanging about hoping to get in at maybe full back. And John said, "You can go if you want." And Gus McLeod said, "You fancy coming to Faulkner?" Yeah. So I unfortunately got a serious injury at Faulkner, which put me out for most of the season. And that same season, my brother Eamon came out.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the game he did play against Frankston Pines, he got sent off. And
So he
it was
came out for a guest stint and only
and
ended up playing
we
one.
wanted them
Got a
for
red card.
We wanted them for the Box Hill game, and what happened was the Frankston Pines player picked him up very tight. In fact, wasn't even interested in the game, just stood in front of Eamon all the time. And Eamon went to go for a run, and he pushed the guy. I can't remember who the player was, and he fell and swallowed his tongue.
Oh,
So of course the linesman thought it was
He's
a
done
serious
something vicious,
punch or
yeah.
whatever, and the referee came over and looked at the situation and gave Eamon the red card, much to Gus's
astonishment.
displeasure, because we really wanted Eamon for the Box Hill game, which was the following week, so he automatically had a 1 week suspension. So yeah, it was a bit of a disaster.
Talking about Box Hill, we had Laurie McKenna on a little while back, and Laurie was telling us the extraordinary story about his first goal at playing for Box Hill, and he scored it. What was the ground? I'm trying to think. There was a tree. There were low hanging trees.
Is that Wembley Stadium they called it, didn't
Probably
it?
Wembley.
Wembley they called it, yeah.
And it came off the tree branch,
Yeah, that might
hit
be
him in the head, and carromed into the goals. And he said it was the best feeling in the world.
That could have been Box Hill.
Did you have any of those terrible moments happen to you?
No, not that. It's surprising that they paid that. But yeah, there was a few.
Well, there was no VAR in those.
there's
No,
days,
no
Jed.
VARs then. Yeah,
Even Croydon had lots of trees that probably shouldn't have
could have been
been.
Croydon as well. Yeah, you never
Well,
know.
I think it was Croydon.
Okay.
That's right.
While we're talking about Eamon, he went to the World Cup in '86
Yeah,
as
yeah.
part of the England Scottish squad. Apologies.
Yeah.
Gee, last time Scotland appeared in the World.
No, they were there in 1990, I think.
Oh,
as
right.
well,
He
yeah.
remembered. Notice he remembered.
Eamon wasn't near them, but
I want to take you back to '85,
yeah,
December '85, qualifier
Yeah.
at Olympic Park.
yeah.
Huge crowd and probably split in half. Australian fans and Scottish
Yep.
fans. A lot of expat Scots. Your obviously
Feelings.
Feelings at the time.
How did you go into it? And at that stage, was Eamon a chance?
Eamon was a big chance at the
Yeah?
time,
Okay.
and he was so disappointed that he never got selected for that game
Here,
because
yeah.
he wanted obviously to come home and see
Correct.
family.
Correct.
And he was most upset that he never got selected. But on saying that, with Scotland not playing as well as they should have played, they dropped a couple of players, and Eamon got selected to go to the World Cup.
So
after that.
what's your recollection of the night leading up
Jimmy
to it?
Leighton-
I remember that night.
Jimmy Leighton being fantastic.
Well, Jim Leighton he had a great game. I remember, was it Orzakov at the bar?
Orzakov,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
and Patikas.
And I thought Australia played really well. And coming out here to play football in Australia, your heart was wanting Australia to do well, but at the same time you wanted Scotland to do well. At the end of the day, I thought Australia had done really well. They held their head up high and were unlucky not to get through.
What did you make of the curator? Should he have kept his job?
Who was that?
The one who cut the lawn.
Oh, that nutcase. Was it? Was it
The word
Frank
that-
Garrock
the
wanted to
Frank
play with
Frank
long
wanted the longer
grass.
grass.
oh, right.
And
yeah.
the Scottish coach apparently went up to the curator and said, the curator came up to him and said to him, "By the way, is there anything I can do for you?" He said, "Actually, I would love you to run the grass cutters a little bit closer."
Yeah.
And he did just that.
Oh, right.
Absolutely.
Well, that was Alec Ferguson was a coach of Scotland at the time.
Correct.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Ferguson got exactly what he wanted.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
he was in charge of those two games because poor old Jock had died
Yes, that's right.
at the
Yeah.
at the previous game,
Yeah,
which was the
against
Wales.
Wales, yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Alex came in. Frank went on record as saying he wanted to play at midday
That's right, in
the middle-
Darwin.
in Darwin on a bumpy pitch to level it up. And I would have backed him. The FFA went with the short mind, Football Australia or whatever, the ASF they were at the time.
the Australian Soccer Federation
Went for the quick fix of let's get the money while we can,
And it
at the
didn't
long
work.
term. Yeah, and
came back to haunt them.
Darwin at midday would not have been great for the Scots.
No. Not at all.
Scotland's football's gone backwards.
Yeah.
They have some brilliant players, but
in the early days, yeah, definitely. We had some great players in Graham Souness and Kenny Dalglish, and, we had some fantastic players. But I think it's a lot to do with the youth development over there, and kids these days are taking up other sports. And Scottish football's not as strong as it used to be. Just looking at the European ties that are played now, Celtic, I think, had to go through, I think it was 3 qualifiers to get into the main draw for the European title.
is it still a blue-collar game for the Scots?
Not really. No, not really.
And that's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, well,
To get out of the mines and to get out of those tough times,
yeah.
you had to play football. You played
It was
football. It was an
that's
option.
Not so much now.
Not so much now.
There's more opportunities for kids these days, and
To do other things.
and that's probably the reason why. I mean, you drive through the streets now in Scotland and Edinburgh and Glasgow, and years ago you've seen kids playing soccer or football all the time. It's very rare now. You don't see that happening because kids are involved in other sports.
You go back to Scotland to see family?
Yeah, I was home in April.
You go down to see Lynx boys?
I don't think Lynx are around anymore. And Adina Hibs isn't around anymore. But Broxburn Athletic was the junior club. They're actually having a good run in the Scottish Cup at the moment.
Wow.
They got through, I noticed last week, so I think they're into the main draw, which is big for the club if they get that far. Yeah.
Means the world to them, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Now, one season at Faulkner, and you then moved on to have 3 seasons at Springvale City. Was that because of Gus? Did you follow Gus, or how did that come about?
Well, having the injury with Faulkner, I didn't actually stay with Faulkner because I still had this injury, and I got over it. And Gus and Bobby McLaughlin took over Springvale. Well, it wasn't. It was who was the directors of coaching for Victoria?
Tim White.
No, it wasn't Tim.
No?
It was I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He was a coach at Springvale, and then Gus came, and so did Bobby McLaughlin. And we had a good run. We just about won the league that year, actually. We were very unlucky not to win it. And I had 3 good seasons there. I enjoyed Springvale. It was handy. I lived in Mount Waverley, so it was handy for training, and they had a good setup there as well.
But importantly, you had recovered from injury.
Yeah,
And you could play to your ability.
Yeah, well, I could come back. It was a niggling injury. It's that injury that a lot of the footy players get. Tommy Cummins had it as well.
Osteitis pubis.
Yeah. John Eisendon had it as well.
So all that sidestepping.
Yeah, well, it's a horrible injury, I'll tell you. And there was one doctor, and Dr. Myers, in Richmond, he'd done the operation, and
Oh, so he had the operation?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And
He stays right away from anything that vaguely resembles, scalpel.
No,
Okay, so-
stay away.
Yeah.
Fullbacks and scalpels. It wouldn't be a show. We obviously need to touch on Paddy, and obviously he sadly passed away about 3 months ago now, is it, give or take?
Yeah, he passed away on August the 6th.
It was a
this year.
tremendous turnout for him.
Oh, look, the confidence that everyone and the support that everyone gave me and my family is unbelievable. Heidelberg offered to do a wake for Paddy, which unfortunately we couldn't do because we'd organised another one, and also the funeral in Tasmania, and there was a big turnout for Paddy there as well. And I'd done his eulogy, and it was one of the hardest things I've had to do because he was my best friend, and it was very, very difficult.
Fantastic.
So Paddy and Vince have been in Tassie, or had been in Tassie for a long period of time, haven't
Yeah, Vince has been there close to 20 years now, I think. Paddy was there for about 14 years, 13 years.
Is there a time for Tasmania to have a football side?
They've got some teams over there, but the good players get themselves over here for the A-League. Don't ever have an A-League side over there. It probably could work.
Mm-hmm.
But where would you have it? Hobart or Launceston? It's the same with the Australian rules. They can't decide on where they want to have
They
it.
can't decide. It's not far of a drive, though, is it? Doesn't take long to get from one end of Tassie to the other.
Not really. You'll drive round it.
I think it's more parochial rather than
It is,
the
very much so.
distance. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
very
I
much so.
think it's more parochial.
Launceston's very parochial.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a lovely city.
Beautiful. Yeah, very pretty.
But, it's a bit cold in the winter, but I've still got family over there, obviously, with Vince and his children. And
So Vince is about to get remarried, is that?
yeah, Vince's wedding next Saturday.
Yeah.
And
you're down for that?
Vince's birthday this Saturday.
Happy birthday, Vince.
Yes, so, and I'm best man, so more of a joyous occasion this time. Rather
Now, you
than-
followed them all the way to Melbourne.
Yeah.
Are you gonna
No,
end up at Tassie?
Well, I go over there a fair bit.
Yeah.
I used to go over a lot with visiting Vince and Paddy, obviously, and Paddy and I have got a lot in common, so I'd go over there and stay. And
So you
fortunately,
fly or you take the Spirit?
No, I'll fly over.
Very
But
good.
unfortunately, I did catch up with Paddy a couple of weeks before he passed, and which I'm glad I'd done that, So yeah, but I don't
Jack
think I was-
Riley told me that he was not in the best of health in those last weeks.
Oh right,
Yeah,
okay,
and
yeah, no, he
because-
was.
Because Jack's he lives now in Tasmania.
That's right. Yeah,
so
he
he's
lives
very
in
aware.
Launceston. Yeah, so he's out of a lot of pain, which is a good thing. But yeah, it's
But he
sad
was saying
loss.
to us what a tremendous contributor and what he meant to the game.
Oh yeah, definitely. Paddy enjoyed his coaching while he coached as well as playing. Yeah, sadly missed.
Very much so, and the turnout is
No, the
living
turnout
proof
was
of that.
sensational. Look, I've got a vision of when you see the gladiators of sport walk out of the race of the tunnel, and I'm not a Collingwood supporter, but Nathan Buckley and and Michael Voss, when they were coming out for those grand finals, leading their teams out, there's just that gladiatorial look.
Sure.
And I was lucky enough when I was 4 years old, 3 years old, 5 years old, to walk out as a mascot, with Paddy by my side.
I have
and
heard that.
I equate that like to the Nathan Buckley thing, because he was a giant of a man. I was a little kid.
Yeah.
He was a giant of a man to men.
And
but
were you aware of how special a footballer he was then as a young kid?
I was a special
Maybe.
person. Yeah,
You're a special person.
Because obviously you don't understand football till a bit later. Obviously, as I grew up, like I said, I saw a very cultured
footballer,
defensive midfielder come centre half. He could play either, but he was very, very comfortable on the ball.
Yeah.
To actually walk out alongside him in that, onto a ground.
And we're talking
was special
Heidelberg?
memories.
What ground was it?
Fitzroy. So
Yeah.
I did it at Olympic Park. I did it at Middle Park. I did it at
Fantastic.
Brunswick Street. And I did it wherever I got a chance. But great memories, and that for me, that was my first soccer memory is Pat Bannon.
Is that right?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So
That's nice.
My first soccer memory is Ron Lord.
There you go.
Playing an absolute wonderful game against the visiting FC Basel,
Oh, right.
in the early 60s in Sydney at Ears Marks Field,
And when
under lights.
And when they're special people, doesn't it make the memory even more?
Well, hey, I can almost take you through his saves, because there was an array of them.
Okay.
And he showed he was heroic, he was smart, and boy, he made it look like it was the right place to be, and that's why I always wanted to be a goalkeeper.
Okay.
That's fair
Not. I hated those wingers. Always wanted to bring them down.
Did you?
Yeah, a notch or two. Jed, it's been for us a huge thrill. As we
pleasure.
started the program, we said for us to have a Bannon in the studio is
thanks very much.
part of the royalty.
Yep.
So
appreciate it.
For us, thank you for being our very first guest
Thank you.
on the brand new shortened season of the Pioneers. And once again, another special guest coming up next week.
Next week, we speak to a Golden Boot winner from the World Youth Cup 1981, Mark Koussis.
Wow.
We'll be speaking to Mark live next Thursday night at 7 p.m, so I'm looking forward to that. And then we've got Ron Smith,
Yep.
the coaching guru.
Yep. And I won't mention the penalty, all right?
Don't mention it. I've cut it out of the highlights.
Jed Bannon, thank you very much for joining
Thank
us
you.
on the
Thank
Pioneers.
you, boys.
Thanks, Jed.
Thanks very much.
Puts the others. No call. Score. Salamini for Cole. Cole on the run. Shoots. 2-0.
Lazanovsky with the free kick. Launches a rocket. Trimboli. What vision.
Marth blasts. Yes. That's it. Wiljevic.
Beautiful goal.
Here's Bozanic. They haven't. They might have won it.
The Pioneers with George Danikian and George Kotzanis on FNR, Football Nation Radio.